This man's a legend in the Supercross and motocross pits. It's great to have him back on. Friend of mine, Larry Brooks. What's up, LB?
What's happening? How are you?
We're good, man. So listen, show 237 was the last time you were on. We are on show 626, LB.
Wow.
Almost 400 shows it's taken for me to get you back on here. So
that's all right. You've been talking to important people. I don't need to be in there.
Anton, so I've asked Larry 2 to 3 times to come on. He said no every time. And then basically this weekend I pleaded with him, look, Supercross is over. We got to come on. And it still took a lot, Larry, to get you on.
You make it easy, though. I mean, I get to sit in my office and talk to you, so it's easy.
You're just not a fan, you said, of doing this kind of stuff, right?
No, yeah. I mean, we pay riders a lot of money to talk to the media and get the message across. So I just don't know why that you guys would want to talk to me.
Stop it. Hey, before we got you on, we were talking about the times we had Jim Hawley in studio. Do you have any Jim Hawley stories that you could share publicly?
I've got a couple Canadian Supercross ones, but they're not a public kind of conversation.
All right. Yep. That's like a lot of people who we ask Jim Hawley stories about. But anyways, hey, season's over. Man, if Ken doesn't happen to have that accident in Tampa, it goes much differently for you guys. But God damn it, you got to win in Daytona, which is maybe if you're going to win 2 races all year, it's Anaheim, 1 in Daytona. So to me, despite the ankle injury and despite Tampa, LB, still a successful year for you. Do you look at it like that, or are you just like, nope, we didn't win, so it sucks?
No. You have to take the positives from anything, and Ken rode really good the majority of the year. Actually, until he got injured, he was riding really good. He was putting it on the podium more than 50% of the time. Should I say top 5, 50% of the time, and then top 3, the majority of the time also. So he was riding good. I think we had the bike pretty good. He enjoyed riding the bike, and to me, that kind of makes my day is when the rider enjoys the motorcycle.
Kenny, I've bugged Kenny a few times about being picky with bike setups and not, always kind of searching, right, looking for that magic setting that me as a mechanic kind of like, you're not really going to find it. But I've heard from more than a few people that, and Kenny himself was like, no, dude, I barely touched my bike this year. Can you verify that?
Yeah, no, I mean, we fiddled with suspension a little bit, like a shim here, a spring there, and but wasn't really asking for anything. If we did change anything, it was all, hey, let's try to improve it, and he was more or less just happy with his bike and just wanted to race. So, I mean, we let him do it the majority of the time.
Yeah. It was a good season for sure. Like I said, winning Daytona is rad. That was awesome. It was just so cool.
No, I mean, if you're going to, like you said, if you're going to win a race, that's the race to win. It was kind of up for grabs this year. Nobody that was on the starting line had won Daytona. So it was like, fresh meat out there that I think there was about 5 guys that were really wanting to win. And, it just worked out for us. Ken won.
702-586-PULP. You got a question for Larry Brooks, give us a call, and we'll get you on the line. Pulp MX Show, presented by Weisco for Larry Brooks. Look, the Suzuki's got a bad rap, LB. We all know why. We do make fun of it here and there, but I mean, I don't think Kenny would be winning races and putting on a podium if the bike wasn't, pretty good. Where do you stand on the Suzuki platform, the bike itself? Does it piss you off when people make fun of the kickstart stuff? Do you think the bike can be much better? Like, where are you at just on the race bike as a platform?
Well, no, I think the motorcycle is pretty good, and it works good, it starts good, off the starting gate. It works really good on the track, and it turns really good. It doesn't have an electric start, obvious, but the only time electric start really comes into play is if you tip over or stall your bike, and I mean, that could happen. So honestly, that's really our only downfall right now. We're working pretty hard trying to fix that. But we're just going to have to deal with it until it happens. But the bike itself is really good. Like if I was Suzuki, I would take that bike and put an electric start on it and leave it. I think the bike is really good right now.
So you don't feel like you're at a disadvantage outside of starting than anybody else?
I don't.
No.
I think the bike is just as good, if not better, than some of the bikes. Like, you have to break it up into turning and acceleration and all the little pieces that put the track together. And yeah, we're right up there. The motorcycle works really well.
Yeah, Kiefer tells me, like, in his opinion, that the bike does a lot of things very good and has no real weaknesses in his mind. Like, it's not the best maybe across the board at any one thing, but it also isn't bad anywhere. Do you agree?
No. Yeah, I do. I think it's in the top 3 in every category as far as, breaking it down into categories. I think, a lot of people give it a lot of grief because it's been the same motorcycle, but that just let us refine it over this many years.
Yep.
And I think a lot of teams wish they had the same motorcycle year after year if they have a good motorcycle.
Yeah. By the way, Chris Wheeler from Suzuki, I met some high-level Japanese guys from Suzuki at Denver. Does it seem like Suzuki's at the highest level? I know you went over there, LB, like 2 months ago, whatever. You wouldn't tell me what it was for.
So yeah, I mean, a whole group of engineers came out here for Denver. It looks like they're getting interested again. They had a lot of things to kind of go through with their company. When they were splitting the marine part off Suzuki and the car part, and just separating all those different divisions. And it looks like that's all done, and we'll see what happens.
Ken had a good season. I told Colt this to his face, Selby, so I'm not like talking shit on the internet here.
Uh-oh.
I said to him, I just said, hey man, no offense, but I just felt like you were kind of invisible this year. You had a okay season, but you never got starts, you never flashed, but you also sometimes were dead last and worked your way into 12th, which was a good ride. But I told Colt, I'm like, you just kind of like a little disappear, but then, 12th overall or 13th overall in the points is okay. Where do you put Colt Nichols' season at?
Colt rides good. He's a good motorcycle rider, period. I don't think he came up to his level of where he should have been this year. I think that there's a few reasons why, but I think those are things that we can work on and start outdoors and keep trying to improve it. But, yeah, he just didn't ride to his potential, what I thought he would finish. And you know what? He just didn't get good starts, to tell you the truth. And, getting good starts is part of the game, is more than half of the game, to tell you the truth. And he just couldn't get off the line. And for whatever that reason is, I think that really hindered him.
Okay. And what about Chiz's season? Obviously, he's last as a full-time guy, and he's helping you with testing and everything else. What'd you make of Kyle's season?
Kyle's just always there, he'll always put it in the main. He'll he's not going to win. We all know that, but I think he rides good. He's such a good motorcycle rider, and he's been around a long time that he knows what to do. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I've always enjoyed working with Chiz. He's a fun guy to work with, and he's pretty smart, like when we go testing and stuff. So I always enjoy Chiz.
Larry, to hear what you just said about you guys having so much information with the bike and testing and all of that stuff, how much data are you actually going back to look at, or are you guys just kind of running day to day? Like, do you have a big history log of, hey, this worked, hey, let's try this, or is it day to day?
For me, it's only been the last 3 years that I've worked on a 450 Suzuki. I was working on the 250 Suzuki with Bar X before that. So a lot of that information doesn't transfer over, but over these last 3 years, I could take, from 2023 and look at what we did and kind of go to those settings or whatever. And it does help. But yeah, I just had like 3 years that I could pull from, but it does help a lot. It helps just, what you have and how to improve it when the time comes, if the track changes, if the dirt changes, if, whatever, and you could fall back on your notes. But the majority of the time, you know what you have to work with, and you know how to improve the bike week in and week out.
I'm just going to assume all the years that you've been doing this, that how do you put the puzzle piece together every single weekend? That's probably what pulls you back into it every time, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part. I mean, the biggest thing is do your work before you go to the track and have a good setting. And I think our window was pretty big, and the bike worked in a lot of different conditions, and we were able to kind of manipulate it when we had to. But the bike worked on a wide range, and it you could ride it on a sandier soil track, and you could ride it on a hard pack track, and you would only have to make small changes to the bike. But yeah, the bike, we had it in a big window, and we were very fortunate.
Do you see Kenny doing any outdoors at all once he heals up?
He's talking about it.
We know he hurt his ankle doing outdoors, riding outdoors.
Yeah, that ankle was wasted already. I mean, any little, if he caught that toe or twisted his ankle at any point, it was going to destroy it, and that's exactly what happened. He caught it in a sand roller section, and it just turned around backwards and destroyed it. So, he got it all fixed. Everything looks good, and he's talking about doing a few outdoors before the playoffs start. So,
okay. Yep.
We'll see. Let it get closer. Let him, do some physical therapy on his ankle, and yeah, we'll know sooner than later.
Do you see him coming back to HEP? Like, I understand there was some positive momentum for that. Do you see that happening?
I mean, everything's kind of leaning that way.
Okay.
He wants to be there. He wants to ride the Suzuki. I know he's got a couple other offers with different teams, but I think he truly enjoys the team and the motorcycle. And we'll see. Yep. You never know how these things go. Like, contract time's always a tough time.
We thought Chad Reed was re-signing after his title. We all did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Hey, Larry, so with what Ken's been doing for the last few years and showing how good of a program you guys have, because the HEP program's been around for a bit, but to really see the step that it's taken in the last 3, how much more attractive has that made you to potential free agents that are trying to find rides for next year?
Well, there are a few riders out there that are looking for rides, good guys. And Dustin's phone is ringing. There's people that are calling and want to ride the bike and, have a conversation, discussion and stuff. And, I mean, that's pretty cool. This team wasn't in that position a few years back. And over the last few years of putting in the work and getting decent results, I think that has changed a lot of people's minds.
Do you have a lot of say on that, LB? Does Dustin bounce it off you and ask you what you think and all that? Do you feel like you have a good part of a say in this thing for next year?
No, yeah, he comes to me and discusses it. I don't want to know about contracts. I don't want to know about money. I don't want to know about all that.
Really?
Stuff. No.
Okay.
No. That's the part that burnt me out so bad, and that kind of turned me off on it, because I really love working with the riders. I really love working on the bikes and working with the mechanics and stuff. That's fun to me. And all the office work and the contract negotiations and having to get a sponsor to go racing, that just stresses me out. So that turned me off on the whole racing thing. But I had way too much on my plate when I was doing it before. So now they've given me, kind of what I wanted. And, so I don't even want to know what's going on with money or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, but as far as riders, though, you can't say, hey, I like that guy. I don't think that guy has it or whatever, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be sitting in the lounge, on the weekend, and he'll say, hey, so-and-so called. And I'll be like, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it for a little bit, and he'll just ask my opinion on him, and he's going to do what he's going to do, but he'll definitely get my opinion on whoever that rider is.
How much longer, Larry, do you want to keep doing this for? Obviously, you took a few years off. You were at Chaparral working there. Bar X was a little bit more laid back, right? The regional team. Now you're back into it, like full-on championship contender guy, just like the MC days and Stu days and Chad days. Like, You want to back it down, or you happy and grinding it out? And because I know you're working your ass off. You only know one way. So how's yourself and your situation?
Right now is not a good time to ask me that at the end of 17 straight weekends.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy. I think we have a good organization. I think they've kind of put me in a spot that I enjoy, and working with the riders that I have, I really, really like all of them. And we all get along great. And we were doing good. We were getting good results, and that kind of keeps the fire burning. But I'm getting older, that's for sure. I've been around a long time, but I don't know. It doesn't die off. It hasn't died off. Honestly, when I was not at the races is when I was the most miserable. It just my whole life was going to the races and trying to do as good as you can, and your worth is that Saturday night, and you have like 5 hours to make your week really good the following week, and I'm having a great time right now. I'm not really sure what I want to do or what the future holds, but as it is today, as it is next year, I'm going to be doing this.
All right.
That's cool. I like hearing that because I see Larry, in his position. I don't talk to Larry a bunch, but I just know, like...
Yeah, because he's intimidating to look at.
I wouldn't say that. Like,
yeah,
I just know he's
serious.
working.
He's very
working.
serious. He doesn't want to be bugged.
But that amount of knowledge that you have, that you would only get by dedicating your entire life to it, and then when you would try to go to apply that and that level of effort to something else, and you figure out that it's not going to be there, and only one thing fulfills you that way, like... The fact that you can go back to it, and really props to you, Larry, to step back into what you guys have done, to step through it in a 250 team with Bar X, and then now come to a factory Suzuki team and be battling for race wins and really building the thing. And not only a Suzuki team, but a really ambitious one to do World Supercross and to have 2 trucks and big sponsors. You have a lot going on, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. Honestly, I'm very fortunate that I was able to go to Chaparral and do that little stint over there. It's not that I didn't have fun. It's just the excitement wasn't there, that Saturday night excitement. And then when I came back with Bar X, it was like, okay, we'll do some amateur racing. And that went for a while, and all the kids graduated up to the pro class. So it's like, oh, okay, let's go pro racing. It kind of snuck up on me a little bit, but in a good way, I had a lot of good people over at Bar X, and it kind of tuned me up for going racing with HEP. And when I signed with HEP, it wasn't to have Ken Roczen, they had a different level of riders, and I went over there and I built the bike, and me and Chiz spent a couple of weeks building the bike and making changes I wanted to make. And Chiz was like, well, the bike's pretty good. And sure enough, a week later, Dustin's like, hey, Ken Roczen's going to come ride our bike. And I'm like, holy shit. Dude, here we go.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, oh, he'll ride it, just not, he'll like it or not like it, whatever the case. I never thought I'd be in this position this quickly again. But, yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. And, I put a lot of time in, like you said. And, yeah, that's really the only thing that keeps me going is that Saturday night adrenaline rush.
Okay, so then to go to the Chaparral thing, can you explain what you were doing there, and then what that perspective of seeing what the consumer is doing and how the industry reacts, and if you were dealing with like your district sales rep or distributors or whatever that was, and what that has given you to know about the business side, even though you're not dealing with it, but what the expectation is of the industry in the second time around?
I was just working in the back more in a fabrication type situation. We were building roll cages for side-by-sides and building side-by-sides, and it was fun. I had a good time because I like building stuff and running, departments like that, but it just didn't have the excitement. But, I didn't really have to deal with the retail customer, and I would once in a while, but, not on a daily basis. And they just kind of hid me in the back and made me work, to tell you the truth. But it was fun. That's when side-by-sides were coming in and everyone was going that direction. and everyone was, buying them, building them, going to the desert kind of thing. And it did show me that side of the industry. And truly, I didn't even know that existed. Yes, it is a new type of industry or a new vehicle, but it didn't exist a few years back. And then, we got on board and we're building side by sides and stuff. And it was pretty fun. It was fun just because I like working with my hands. I like building things. And, but nothing compares to racing.
Pulp 25 to save at Weisco, bringing you Larry Brooks here on the Pulp MX Show. LB, you've worked with so many great guys like McGrath and Stewart and Chad, Kenny. Who does Kenny remind you of? Who does he? Is it a mix of guys? Is it one guy in particular? Or?
Yeah, I mean,
is it Tim Ferry? Please say Tim Ferry.
He's got a little bit of James in him.
Okay.
With that quick, how quick he is on the first couple laps.
Yeah.
He hammers down like Chad did. Chad was a hammer. Jeremy was just flat good.
Mm-hmm.
He would get the whole shot and run away with it. And he was his own character. Jeremy was. He was really good. But I think Ken reminds me of James more than anybody.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense for sure. Man, what a managing career you've had, and what a racing career you had. Do you look like, so this is a little bit with me, like when I see old photos of myself wrenching, LB, it seems like that was another time, another life. And although I have a lot of memories of that, I've been doing this media stuff for long enough now where that just doesn't even seem like that I did that. When you see Larry Brooks on an RM80 on the cover of MXA, or, in 87, you had a great year as a privateer, like, does that even, are you even like, oh yeah, like I had that too. I did that too. Does that seem like another lifetime ago?
A little bit, it's not fresh on the memory or nothing like that, but, I will see a photo or a video or, I'm a YouTube freak. So
Mm-hmm.
I hunt around in YouTube and I run across videos and stuff. And it's really fun to watch because you forget about it a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm just into what I do now. I'm really into working on motorcycles and working with riders, and I just enjoy what I do. I mean, that was a lifetime ago, when I was a racer, but you kind of never forget that, and you pull from that when these
Mm-hmm.
guys are going through hard times, and you try to think, oh, what was I feeling at that time, and how can I help them? And that's kind of what I use my racing career for, is just helping my riders now and thinking, because it's tough. It's mentally draining. It's stressful for these guys. And not even saying how dangerous it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say the right words. You want to motivate them, but don't fill them full of hot air, and they know when you're bullshitting them. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just tell them what you think they want to hear. You better have the right words, or you're just going to lose them in the first 5 minutes. So, I mean, my racing career, it was a century ago, more than that. And I just try to use that as, what the riders need. If I can help the riders and what I need to say.
You had some really good years as a factory guy, like I said, like 87, 91 was good. Did you ever come close to a factory ride? Did anybody, like, were you in a running for anything? Like, did you ever?
Yeah, I mean, I was always the bottomless guy, right?
Yeah.
So they would fill their spots with their top guys, and then it would be like, hey, maybe Guy Cooper, Larry Brooks, or, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I just never made the cut,
Yeah.
I never kind of fit in right, or, whatever. I wore glasses at that point. I always felt like that was something that they didn't want one of their riders wearing glasses, because that was a weakness. And
Yep.
I don't know, it just never happened. But I mean, dude, this industry has given me way more than what I thought I would get out of it when I was young.
Yeah, you should write a book, man. Your book would be fucking incredible.
It would be long.
Some of your stories that I've heard, and some of the things that you've been involved in, and people that you've worked with, is incredible. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been fortunate for sure to be able to work with some great riders, and just live the life in the motorcycle industry. And
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said for that, but yeah, there's a lot of stories that go along with it too, because it's pretty fun, as you guys know.
So this is interesting. I think you'll have a great perspective on this. You've been around for a long time as a racer, of course, and as a manager, and like I mean, I'm going on 30 years next year of either mechanic or media guy, and so like fuck my life. But Brooks, do you think the sport? I mean, we see the unification of the series is in this SMX thing and one TV package, and honestly, I mean, I still think Pelletier and the guys don't get everything right, but it is a whole lot better than some of the other AMA referees that have been there, and you know that. Are we in the best spot, politically wise, sanctioning body wise, promoter wise, that you've ever seen? Because although they're not perfect, I kind of think we are.
Yeah, I think the sport has done well over these past 5 years, whatever it's been.
Yep.
You know, putting the two series together was huge. You know, the television package is good, that everyone goes to one channel and watches what they want. And I think it's really good right now. You know, you talk about AMA, and me and the AMA go back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, I have my opinion on things. They have their opinion, but they're really working hard by bringing J-Bone in and all J-Bone's little clan, you know, and Pelletier, he listens, you know. Not that they didn't listen before, but, you know, they listen and then they make changes. It seems like it's really good. I think it still needs to get better. I think our rule book needs to get better. You know, some of the blue flags and different things like that that AMA controls, that needs to get better. But yeah, I think we've come a long way. That's for sure.
At least when Pelletier docks a rider for jumping on a red cross or this or that, there's science behind it. Hey, it's 2 spots, and then it's a loss of position, and he sticks to that, and that's been the rule for many years. Or staggered starts, the rules. Like they at least have explanations that somewhat make sense, Larry, where you're like, okay, I don't agree with that, but it's not just Duke or Steve Whitelock pulling something out, and you're like, wait, what? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think everything starts in the Stone Ages and then catches up to speed, right?
Okay.
So
yep.
I think the Duke days and the Steve Whitelock days, they were still early days. And even though the AMA had been around a long time, the sport was growing really fast at that point. And the AMA was trying to stay up with it. I think they've taken a bit of a leap and gone forward, and I think now that they're in a better spot, and I think they do listen to the teams and people that want to give their opinion. They just don't blow them off. I feel like I was blown off before, you know, back in the day. I was just a little kid, and they would just say, shut the hell up, you know? And, but I think they're growing along with the sport. And, I mean, there's going to be some hurdles. I think everyone – they don't get it right the first time, or rarely, and I think they're doing a good job. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever say that, but I really do think that the promoters, the AMA, you know, promoters, the sanctioning body, everyone's working their butt off trying to make it a better sport.
Right. Do you feel like, you guys have weekly managers calls? Do you feel like those are helping and they listen to you like that? They try to make the changes you guys want?
No, I don't think that does much.
Okay.
I think that kind of lets everyone kind of talk and get it off their chest. But I think it's better because after you do mention something in like a manager's meeting or whatever, then, you know, you have a phone call after that. But it does let it, you know, get out in the air and hit people's ears, and they can hear it. And you're going to hear, you know, people kind of sighing or whatever. But I do think that they do listen, and it is getting better. I just think the rule book needs to be tightened up a little bit. There's still too many gray areas in it.
I love this is a perfect segue to what I was going to ask. I watch MotoGP, and there's IRTA, so it's the organization of the race teams. And to hear you guys having the managers meetings, which have been happening for the last 5 years, has been great. what's it going to take for you guys to formally organize as the groups of the OEMs and the teams to then have a unified message that you guys are able to go to the series on? Does that seem like that's something anybody is interested in, or is that so far-fetched?
I think everyone would be interested in that, but everyone has their own opinion, and everyone is kind of out for their own well-being, and that's what we have to get past. And I think as a group, as the manufacturers of the teams, or however you want to say it, I think we need to have one story, and everyone saying the same thing. And that's difficult sometimes because there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of people, that are trying to protect their company or do the right thing for their company. And, but at some point, everyone's going to have to be saying the same thing for a real change to be made.
Yeah, I've been a big proponent the last 3 years that there needs to be. I really like what Christina Denny and Ezra Lusk are doing on their side of the AMA, and that's an important role, because I've been hearing from the AMA people, having a rider come in and explain something to us from Ezra's perspective. We had never heard that, and Ezra hasn't raced in 20 years. So that's a big gap for them not to have that information. But I think on behalf of the riders, there needs to be someone, and I'm not saying union or whatever, but they need something to have their side of things. I know everybody talks to the Dirtworks guys, and you can get Mui, and you can have the conversation, but they're exactly what you said. There has to be a unified voice, not an active racer looking to do that, but someone that has the experience to be able to have the respect of everybody, know what's important, not what's just a personal vendetta, and then make the progress happen.
That's the problem with anything, is somebody tries to benefit themselves or their team by saying something or having a rule change or whatever it may be, and you need somebody that is it's a generic kind of thing. It's a generic kind of conversation that everyone says the same thing. I love it that Yogi comes to the races now, and Christine and everyone, and I consider that J-Bone's group, and I think they're going in the right direction. I just don't think we're there yet, but we're definitely on that road.
We got a phone call from Natty. What's up, Natty? Welcome to the show. What's your question for Larry Brooks?
Oh, Larry's such a fan, man. Any Jim Hawley stories?
Everyone wants to hear Jim Hawley stories. I've got a few, but I'm
maybe
not
for the book.
Yeah. All right, Natty, got a question?
Yeah, so I was watching Bubba's World today on YouTube. Was reminded of the backflip abort. What did you say to James in that moment?
Truly, I don't think he wanted to do a backflip that day. I think he was praying that I was going to shut him down. But yeah, it was something that he could have done without. Josh Hill did a backflip, and that didn't work out so well for him. And anytime anyone talks about a backflip, I think of Josh getting off at 30 feet up in the air and crushing his body. So I wasn't going to let that happen. That's for sure.
Thanks, Natty. Appreciate
Talk about the politics. Hey, does Deegan race any 450 opposite coast next year?
I don't think so. I think 450 Nationals, though. He's in for that.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Natty. Larry, I know it went south at the end. Do you talk to James at all? Have you seen him at the races?
We've had a few conversations.
Oh, you have? Okay, good.
Yeah. Kind of leave things behind,
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't too pumped at the time, but you can't just live with that forever. And him and Ken were flying when Ken rode that at that Ironman race. When Ken rode that 250, I just walked up on him, and James and Ken were standing there talking, and me and James just started talking, and I think he was as surprised as I was surprised that I walked up on him. Yeah, but. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah. He was cool.
When you look back at your professional career, mostly as a manager, like we said, you accomplished so much. And I mean, not that you're not having a great time now, LB, but man, the Chaparral days with Jeremy and winning, and you guys were having a good time. I got a little slice of that when I worked for you for that half a year. Was that your favorite time as in your professional career? Like, was that the time when you look back, you're just like, yeah, this is awesome?
God, I've had a lot of good times. I've had a lot of good riders, so that kind of goes along with it. But the Jeremy days, that was when I was fresh, when I was new, and I had just started being a team manager. And to have a rider like Jeremy McGrath, a lot of people don't understand because they didn't live it. You get it. You were there. You got to live it with us, and just the person that he was, and the athlete, the racer that he was. It couldn't have been any better. Like, holy crap! Like, everything he touched turned to gold. So it was kind of difficult that you wouldn't have a good time. And he definitely liked to have a good time once in a while.
I've said this before, and I don't want to piss off any of my friends or listeners, but there's never been a champion like Jeremy in our sport. There hasn't never been, as far as the total package, like just fan friendliness, fan popularity. I mean, nobody liked him in Georgia, but that was about it. The way he acted, the way he treated you to your face. I don't know if there's ever been another guy like that, honestly. And I hate that. Like, I'm not shitting on the current guys, and a lot of them are great, but in my eyes, and maybe that's an old man walking uphill to school both ways, Larry, but I really think that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was a really good person, and he had a great personality, and he treated his fans really good. Not that the riders don't do that now, because I think they do. I think it's just so serious now, that they can't even take a breath without, a fan being on top of them or a team being on top of them and keeping them straight. And I think it's just a different time, a different age. And it's going to be a long time till we have another Jeremy McGrath, if we ever do.
Yeah.
Just the amount of winning, like we said, and the person that he was. But, there could be at any time. We thought other riders were going to, reach that goal and reach those race wins that he had in 7 Supercross championship. I mean, I don't know who that person's going to be, but I'm just thinking that at some point, every sport you have to come up with a new champion. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever have the same fun that I did, but I'm a different age. It's a different time. And, it's hard to really compare year to year.
Okay, Larry. So this is a perfect time for us to bring up the whole Grow the Sport thing, because you are an instrumental part of all of the stuff that's happening. Like, you're prepping bikes to go on the Jay Leno show and all of that. But then your guy Ken went to F1 in Miami last week, which is like arguably one of the biggest events happening. Everybody goes to that
Nichols
now.
Went to Pat McAfee.
Yeah. It's in the mainstream. It's in the mainstream now, and we really do have a lot of things. But what is it, from your perspective, that's different about now? My opinion is that there's just so much more media and there's so much more exposure, and you just see so much and everybody's famous that it's harder to make that splash. But, like, to live what you guys live with Jeremy, and then to see it now where Ken's a Red Bull athlete and he is got a display in almost every gas station, like, what do you think of that, and what can we do to make it be what it should be?
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question.
I know it's a loaded question, but like, you've lived it, and you get to live it a second time now in the modern era where everybody's so critical of it, while you had the golden era,
I don't think you can have fun like we had fun back then with social media and everything that we have now, that, everyone sees what you do. It's kind of like a rat, in the game. And you don't want to make a wrong move or insult somebody or whatever. I think there's just too much on the line now that you can't be really who you are. I think Deegan does a good job of it. I think he has fun. He's a kid still. He hasn't made too many mistakes, and he does a good job with his social media. But I think social media was the downfall of all sports. It's just you know exactly what each athlete's doing, and everyone's got a phone camera in their hand day to day, and it's honestly too dangerous for these guys to have a good time and possibly insult somebody or rub them the wrong way. It can go south really quick.
Larry, how do you like and I don't know, it's Derek or Davin. which one of your kids are you bringing to the races? But how do you like that?
Yeah, that's Davin.
Sorry. Yeah. What's that been like?
I mean, I really enjoy it. I mean, going to work with your kid every weekend, it's pretty awesome.
Yep.
You know, you raise kids, you know, kind of send them out in the world, and then they come back and want to work with you and travel with you. And I walked with my granddaughter on track walk this weekend, me, Davin, and her. And I mean, I'm the full grandpa, you know, now, and I don't know. I'm just having a blast doing it, and I'm very fortunate that the Pipes let me do it the way I want to do it, and yeah, it's really cool to have your family with you.
What's the biggest professional regret you have? Who should have you signed? Who shouldn't you have signed? What should have you done differently? What's the regret? I mean, so many things have worked out for you, so many wins and championships, and I mean, even the pivoting from Chad to James couldn't have worked out any better. What's the regret, though?
I really try not to regret.
Okay.
You know, I've tried hard, like my whole career, my whole life, not to regret something, because I feel like life is already written for you. You just have to live it, and you have to make decisions at times. But if you make that decision, it's the right decision. You know, and I try not to regret anything, and I try not to think, God, I should have done it that way. Yeah, I do say that once in a while, but I've never had anything that really bit me in the butt, you know, and I just, like, for 12 months, I think, God dang it, why'd I do that? So, yeah, I just, my life, the way I live my life, I try not to regret.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, that's nicely said, I guess. I mean, I was hoping you were going to come in with, like, I regret firing Mathis.
Hey, I didn't have a choice.
I know. The worst was I had no vehicle, and I had to give back my sweet Mazda Troy Lee truck. That was the worst part of the whole deal.
Honestly, those things were awesome at the time. Those Mazda with the flames down the side, and yeah, those were.
Larry's like, hey, we got to let you go, and we need the truck back. But I remember you said, hey, do you have another car? And I'm like, no. And you're like, okay, well, drop it off Monday, or like keep it for the weekend, or I don't remember what you said, but you were like, you don't got to give it to me right now, but soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, good. I got to get a car.
God, I mean, those were that kind of sucked. Honestly, that did suck, because I really enjoed working with you. So
I know. You're telling me.
A bummer.
Yeah, I thought I was set, man. It was not a great idea, but hey.
No. Hey, things change. It did suck. It sucked for both of us, but really sucked for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything else for Larry, Anton?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to ask him the age question?
I do. Okay. We talked to Brayton. We talked to Zach. We talked to Phil. Cooper wins his title. He's the oldest champion, all of that. You just got done working with Kyle Chisholm, who's racing well into his 30s, 3 kids, married, all of that. Larry, from your perspective, what is it about right now where you're seeing these guys being able to push it well past what was the golden age of being 25, 26? What kind of information are you learning when you work with these guys? Like, to see Ken and know how methodical he is, to see Kyle do what he's doing. And then for you, from your industry perspective, when do you guys give them the freedom to, like, hey, we trust you, you can do what you need to do, you're not just some loose cannon kid?
Yeah. I think the older they are, the smarter they are. But at some point, that fear factor dips in there. Mm-hmm. So you have to be a little bit careful with age. But, the motorcycles are so good, they're not beating these guys' bodies up as bad. That was really the reason that a lot of riders would retire so young, is the motorcycles weren't that good. And they would either fall off, or the bike would beat them to death and injure their back, injure their knees, injure their wrists, whatever it may be. And medicine wasn't as good back in the day. I think the motorcycles are good. They're not beating these guys up. I think the medicine is a lot better. These guys are taking training a whole lot more serious now. And so I think their bodies are better. But that allows us to see these guys in their prime. Mm-hmm. You don't really get smart till you get 28, 30, around that age. When you're a kid, you're just balls out, just hanging it out, and you do it on talent. But when you see these guys at 30, whatever, you're seeing a smart individual, and their craft is refined. They've they've worked on it for a long time. They've been through a lot. So, I mean, I see champions coming in being older nowadays, and I don't think that's much of a surprise if you really look at how the sport has changed and how much smarter these guys get a little bit later on in their career.
Yes. Speaking of YouTube, I watched the one with Hannah, and they're like, Hannah, he's so old. He's 27. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's ancient in this sport. And you're like, wait, what, 27?
Yeah, but it was so different then, like he would just hammer laps in the desert and just, you look at that bike and it had, 6 inches of suspension or whatever. And they had foam seats that were, 6 inches tall just so that they wouldn't sit down and blow their back out. And I just see that medicine is so much better. Their physical fitness is so much better, and the motorcycles are better. So now we're seeing older champions.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer because, like, not to insult any fans, but everybody's always like, these old guys just want to stay in the 250 class because they're not learning. And it's like, well, they're staying around because they figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that's just
I mean, they're making
$300,000
$300,000 racing half the Supercrosses and then some nationals.
Not to get into the weeds on that one.
No, but
like,
saying,
when you're so – people are so dumbfounded of, like, how is there a 28-year-old in the 250 class? Because they can do that now. They weren't doing it 20 years ago. It's just
Correct.
a possibility.
Yeah. I think I think that's why our sport has gotten older. Now we see guys with families up on the podium and stuff, and it's just because that's the age of having kids and having families. We've just gotten a little bit older, and we're seeing the better part of the sport now because we're racing with more experienced and mature guys, and it's changed over the years, that's for sure. But I think in a positive way.
LB, we've seen guys with dogs on podiums, too. I don't know if you knew about that or not. But
I did know about that.
Oh, did you? Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he wasn't too pumped that I said something about it.
Damn, I forgot. I remembered that, but that was so long ago.
We had Doggate for a while. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was the girlfriend that really didn't like me, but
Yeah.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
You shouldn't, but, like, okay, to what he started the show with, and Larry, like, I know you're just being, funny about saying that nobody should care about what you care about, but the knowledge that you have, both from a racer, but then as a manager, the technical stuff that you have, if anything, I think that you and other guys like you aren't being talked about enough because the dynamic that you guys bring in is a big selling point that could make fans more interested. I watch F1. I know he doesn't want to, but when I watch F1 and the Zach Brown guy that runs McLaren, you know his entire backstory and what he says, and then you have a little bit more insight onto why does McLaren make that decision. LB has all of the same experience, probably 10 times more for his craft. And if we were able to extract that to explain to people, hey, it's this, it would open up so many more windows.
There you go, Larry. Do more of these shows, more media.
But everybody, all of the guys, all of the team manager guys have such an important thing, and the dynamic that they play. For Larry to come back after he left, and he's an all-timer, that is tremendous, and that's something that speaks volumes to how fun this job is to do.
I don't look into it that deep. I totally agree with you. I don't look into it that deep, and I'm more of a background guy. I like to stand in the background and kind of work with my rider and the team and stuff like that. And I'm not a front guy. I want the rider to be the front guy, and I want him to get all the exposure. But there is a lot of cool shit that goes on in the background, and let's say on Tuesday night at the shop, or something during the week, or there is a lot of cool stuff that would make a good story.
I've told this story before on this show, but when Larry was a manager at Chaparral, one time at Millville, we would change out the pivot point on the cases, right? So you'd move the pivot up and down in the cases and move the back end of the motor up to change the...
Another thing no one knows happens.
Yeah, just change the angle of the bike and change the chain torque and all that. And Larry's like, hey, after Saturday practice, he's like, hey, I think we should move the pivot. And I'm like, fuck, you got to take the cases. You
That's
got
wait. First off, that is taking the bike down to the frame.
Yeah. And you're like, I think we should do that. This was Saturday after practice, right? And I'm like, really? Like, and you're like, yep, we're going to do that. You probably talked to Timmy at the time, and Timmy said, sure, try it or whatever. And I will say this, like, I remember, like, the mechanicking career was a long time ago, but this moment I remember like it was yesterday. Brooks sitting there with me, drinking Mountain Dew while I did the work, you know, but talking about bikes and setup, and Larry was getting into it. And like a lot of managers, and I've had them, would just be like, hey, you got the rental car, do this, and, you know, whatever. And LB was like, we didn't get out till like 11 at night or midnight on Saturday night.
It was late.
Before the next morning's race
At Millville.
and
but,
you stayed with
you
me,
know,
and like you were just like, this is going to help Timmy, we're doing this, you know.
We were a team.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I see it. It's like a football team. Like, hey, if one guy's going to be there, we're all going to be there. And I just think that's how it should run. And I think that made our relationship better. You respected me, I respected you more, and we got the work done, and the bike was better the next day. And Timmy did do good.
Do you remember what happened the next day?
No, I'm just thinking it's Millville sand.
No. He did do well first moto, 5th in the first moto. It was a really good ride, and I think it was 5th. 99 Millville, people can look it up. Second moto, he was running second and absolutely died in the whoops and broke his throttle housing. Cartwheel.
Oh,
yeah.
I do remember that.
I had to go push the bike from the
look
creek.
At how good he rode.
He did. No, he was on it.
He would have gone 5 and think of the worst 3.
Yep.
He would have stood on the podium.
Yeah, he was on it. It was a really good day until that cartwheel into sand whoops. But,
so that change was the right change.
Yeah. But I will say this, Larry, I was on other teams where the managers did not do what you say as a football team. They did not do that, you know? So.
I mean, everyone has their own style. Everyone does it their way. And, and you know, I don't bash anyone. They can do it however they want to do it. I just love it. I love this sport, and I want to be part of it, you know, and I think working on the motorcycle is a fun thing. So, you know, sometimes there is important things to do, and you do have to leave or whatever, but I didn't have anything better to do.
Yeah. But that's also why guys like Oscar and Delorier and so many other guys followed you around for a while, you know? Big B. Yeah. Like they went where you went, you know? Because
I had a really good team there for like 11 years. Like, wow. Not that I don't have a good team now, but I had my same team for like 11 years, and they were some great mechanics and great motor builders, and I've been fortunate to work with some good people.
You ever see Jerry Campbell anymore? Any idea what Jerry's doing?
Once in a while. Somebody mentioned him the other day. I can't remember who it was, but he works construction now.
Oh, okay.
And, he kind of just went off and did his own thing.
Did you ever tell a story publicly about when you and Big B told him that the sunglass guy was looking for a sponsor with those things that go on the end of sunglasses?
God. And those fluorescent armbands.
Larry and Big...
You have to tell the story. You'll tell it way better than me.
So there's those things that they were like rubber neoprene tubes, and they go on the end of sunglasses, right?
Like to keep them on your head.
Yeah, to keep on your neck and everything, exactly. Right? Keep them on your head. And Larry and Big B told Jerry, who was working for Lamson, Timmy, they told him that the guy who invented those is at the races, and he's looking to sponsor someone, and like they got big money, but you gotta run the product, Jerry. And so, like, I guess it was bright pink. Was it pink?
Yeah. It was like Dayglow green and Dayglow pink.
Right.
And he had the wristbands on both. Green one on one side, maybe 2 on each side, and then on the other side, and then he had that thing, that strap on his glasses.
On his glasses. And they were like, dude, you got to keep it, because if he sees you, like, you know, this will be the sponsorship. We'll land the sponsorship.
Yep. and you'll make money, because if you get on TV, they're going to give you a bonus, like a $500 bonus for every minute that you're on it.
Who came up with this?
And,
I don't.
Oh, my God, dude. He had fluorescent all over him, and I couldn't keep from laughing. Big B he was doing it so good. It was the funniest thing you've ever seen in my life. And Mathis was on the ground rolling.
It was great. Yeah, it was fat. And they was like, Jerry, you got to keep these on. You got to keep them on, man.
I have a lot of fun with B now at the Cowie truck, but I can only imagine what it was like back then.
Oh, yeah.
He was young. He was probably like 22 2 at that time. I mean, he just
Yeah.
oh my God, it's awesome. He's the best guy.
Yeah, he was funny, man. He had some moments. He hated me at first. God, he hated me.
Did he?
Yeah, because I was a little messy in the truck. So, it wasn't good.
my
Yeah,
God.
I blew solvent out of the tank. I was cleaning, and he fucking threw
No,
my.
you dumped it out of your swing arm. He still talks about it.
Okay, that was it. Yeah.
You just dumped it?
Your swing arm or your cylinder or something, and you walked out on the lift gate and you poured it onto the asphalt. He almost lost his mind.
Yes. Not happy with me. Not happy. But, we all got better. We all learned things.
Hey, we were all learning at that point.
Yeah, it was funny, though. Some of those moments were and Big B telling the story. I don't think I was there, but at some point, Dave Damron was like, hey, I'm buying too much food for, I only want to buy food for the team. And, like, Big B was putting signs like, no turkey for you, and no turkey. You can't have any turkey. Only Jeremy gets turkey, and like just taking what Dave wanted and like going further over top. Big B was hilarious. Yeah.
So he always took it to the extreme, but in a funny way. That's why we had so much fun, just because we had good people around us.
Yeah, it was some fun back then for sure. Well, listen, LB, try not to make it 400 fucking shows until you come back on, okay? I'll try to convince you otherwise, but yeah. Otherwise, always fun to talk to you at the races. Thank you for the interviews and thank you for coming on tonight. And we will see you at the Great Outdoors. They say it's the Great Outdoors, so we'll see you at Paula, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be sweating. So, all right, Michael and Steve, thank you.
All right, thanks, LB.
See you, Larry.
See you guys. Bye.